it gets expensive when you're doing upgrades on your Harley. It is extremely busy down here in Uptown, but we're about to go for a little ride. It's a beautiful day. It is 72 degrees and it's November. Like, you don't get days like this when you're in Cleveland, but down here it's nice. So if this is your first time by my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully you enjoy the content and you'll be hitting that subscribe button at some point. So today we are going to talk about, is it expensive owning a Harley?
Infinit Ryda. Infinit Ryda.
Ooh, that sun is brutal. It's time to go a different direction. Oh yeah. It is crowded down here in Uptown today. We got people out. They taking pictures like everywhere. Look at them with their little green suits on. You got the bird thing right there. Taking photos. That's kind of cool. Maybe I'll show up in a picture somewhere. Today we're going to talk about, is it actually expensive to own a Harley-Davidson? And to be honest with you, owning a Harley-Davidson isn't that expensive. Well, let me take it a different route here. So some people feel like owning a Harley is or can get expensive. And it can, but it doesn't have to be. Let's say it that way. So I've owned a Harley Sportster, which, you know, isn't going to be your expensive Harley-Davidson by no means. I finally get to ride on it. Look at that. Oh, they're doing cartwheels. Motorcycles out here. Actually, let's see what they're doing. I like watching stunts and stuff. Let me jump off. Hey. You can always come across something cool down here in Charlotte. Oh, I think that's a Busa. It's a Gixxer. Alright, let's go back this way. Like I was saying, it does not have to be expensive to own a Harley. There's so many different options, or there's ways to make owning a Harley cost effective. In my opinion, it could be expensive owning any type of motorcycle if you're not willing to get your hands dirty. A lot of the cost that comes with motorcycles and Harleys is maintenance. You spending money on the bike, you paying for service to get certain things serviced on the motorcycle and not being able to actually do it yourself. Once you buy the bike, the cost is the same. Like an oil change on my Harley would be the same if I did it myself on a Harley as if I did it on another type of bike, any type of bike, you know. It's just a lot of people aren't willing to get their hands dirty, so it's not really expensive to own a Harley. And I'm not talking about just a Sportster, I'm talking about any of them. It don't matter what kind of Harley you got, it does not have to be expensive to take care of your bike. Now, I'm not gonna lie, it might be a little expensive for me with Harley here because I'm indecisive, and when you're indecisive, it gets expensive when you're doing upgrades on your Harley. Yes, that's a fact. Especially when you can't make up your mind on what you want. Like, for instance, me, I've had 3 exhausts on this motorcycle since I've had it, and I'm in the process of another one being shipped out right now. So, you know, if you just make up your, is that a helicopter? That is it's a helicopter right there. I want to see this. Like, it's a helicopter sitting in the parking lot. That's cool. You never know what you're gonna see when you come out here, I swear. Some of my main costs or initial costs with my Harley is because I was indecisive and I kept doing different upgrades. I couldn't figure out what I wanted. I bought different types of bags for the bike, so I've had like 3 different bags that I purchased, but I ended up going with one specific one. I've had 3 different type of exhausts, and to be honest, the first exhaust only cost me about $200 or under $200. So it's not expensive to customize, to own your Harley, and to enjoy your Harley. Where it gets expensive is, like I said, when you get extremely indecisive and don't know what you want to do with your bike. I'm not going that way. What's on your mind? Now, for the most part, yes, a Harley is going to hold a premium price tag initially when you buy the bike. You're probably going to spend a pretty penny on actually getting the bike, but to maintain it and things like that, like an oil change, the oil filters are the same price it would be on any other bike. I think my oil filter is like $10, and then I use fully synthetic oil, which is typically $9 a quart, and I think it takes 3.5 quarts or so. So it's not expensive at all. That's about the same price I pay to do an oil change on the R6. It's a little less to do it on the Z125 because I do the oil change myself. Now, if you take it to a dealership to get your oil changed, you're going to be paying like $100 when you could have your oil changed for under $40 typically. Where the cost comes in is when you're doing your upgrades and things like that. Like this Harley-Davidson Harley here, I think I might have told y'all how much I paid for her before, but I'm gonna tell you, I got this bike. It's a 2007. When I got it, it had roughly 3,000 miles on it, and I paid $2,000 for this bike. You just have to look around and you can find a deal. The bike was in mint condition. There was nothing wrong with it, but it was a color I didn't like. But for $2,000, I'll buy it because I painted it myself. So all I did was paint the bike and start customizing it. That's when I started dumping a ton of money into it. But I didn't even have to do that. It already had some decent pipes on it when I got it. But even if you buy one, it doesn't even have to be a Sportster. Whether you get a Softail, a Road Glide, a Street Glide, yes, that initial cost may be a little bit more depending on what you're looking for. But when it comes to maintaining your Harley-Davidson, it's not that expensive. These bikes are extremely easy to work on. That's why I do not understand, and I never will understand, why people want to spend all that money taking their bike to the dealership to get all the service done on it. I mean, I can understand some things, but an oil change, if you can't remove a filter and pour some oil into where the oil goes on the bike right here on the side, like you don't even have to take anything off to do it. Like you can You can do your oil changes yourself and save a ton of money. That's why I don't get why you're taking your bikes to the dealership and paying $100 or more just for an oil change. It makes no sense. But I'm not gonna lie, depending on what type of customizations you want to do to your bike, it can be expensive. But again, that's with anything, any type of motorcycle. Depending on what type of exhaust you want on your Harley, it can be expensive. You can find an exhaust for $200, or you can find an exhaust for $2,000. It just depends on what you want. And that's the same thing with a metric bike, like a R6 or something like that. That boy a player. You see the long hair? We got them all white on. That boy fresh. I ain't never seen that. What the e-cigs and juice? That's a store? Look, Pizza Peel. They actually got some pretty good pizza. Or if you have an R6, you can find an exhaust for $200, or you can find an exhaust for a couple $1,000s. It is what it is. Like the Toast exhaust for R6 and R1 is expensive as hell. But you can pick up a Dan Moto or a Voodoo exhaust for a steal, like seriously. So it's not that owning a Harley is expensive at all. It's the fact of what are you doing with that Harley that makes it expensive. Labor, yes, labor for service gets expensive if you're not willing to pick up a wrench and do some of the work yourself. It can get expensive, yes. But if you could do simple things like an oil change, cleaning your air filter, changing your spark plugs and wires, I mean, they're right there. Look, I can change them while I'm riding if I wanted to. There's no reason whatsoever for you to be spending money on stupid things like this. Like, go pick up a couple tools from Harbor Freight and work on the bike yourself. And it's very cost effective to own a Harley-Davidson or any motorcycle. Motorcycles are less expensive to own than a car, in my opinion, because they're easier to work on, but you can make them expensive. So for me, the exhaust I have on here right now, I think I paid like $450 for. It's the Vance & Hines mini grenades. I've decided to switch into a different exhaust, which you'll see in a future video whenever the exhaust comes. And I will be selling these, so if you're interested in these Vance & Hines mini grenades, hit me up. But this exhaust on here was for under 500, 400 something dollars for a full exhaust. That's a deal. It's a deal. Now, don't get me wrong, it's more expensive than some of the other exhausts could have been. And my handlebars, yes, I was going for a name. I got Lucky Dave's handlebars. These are expensive, but you can get something like LA choppers, any type of handlebars, or you can rock with the bars the bike comes with. But me, I have a problem. I have a serious issue. Spending money on my bike is like a crackhead spends money on rocks. It is what it is.
I want some crack.
No. I'm addicted to upgrading, changing things on my motorcycle. I can never just keep it the way it is, you know. I need to. Hopefully, this next time around, I'm gonna with these couple things I'm about to do to this bike. Hopefully, I can just stick with that for a while. So, if you're thinking about picking up a Sportster, a Indian, any type of motorcycle, that a Ducati that people say are extra, well, Ducatis, that's a totally different ball game. There's a lot of stuff on them. You're gonna have to take that to the dealership, and you're gonna have to empty your wallet out. So take that back. But if you're thinking about like a Harley, which people feel like are expensive bikes, or any other motorcycle, it's not that expensive to own a motorcycle. It's not that expensive to own a Harley-Davidson. You just have to be willing to put in the work yourself. And it's not like it has to be worked on all the time. I work on this bike maybe twice a year. Is that about? Maybe twice a year, unless I'm doing some upgrades that are unnecessary, because I told you already, I got a problem with upgrading and adding stuff on my bike. But maybe twice a year, you'll do an oil change, which will cost you around $40. You buy a little air cleaner kit that comes with the cleaning spray and all of that. That's maybe like 20 bucks, and that'll last you about a good 4 or 5 times cleaning your air filter. You change your spark plugs, which are typically very reasonable. You don't even have to change the wires all the time, but you can. I mean, I changed my wires because of the color. My old wires were perfectly fine. I just wanted red wires, so I wasted money. The mirrors this bike came with were perfectly fine, but I've been through 3 different sets of mirrors because I want a certain look. Like, I get anal with it. That's where you start spending some serious bread. When did they do this stupid shit? So they took one lane completely away to make it a bus lane only? Come on, man. But let me know down below if you own a motorcycle, and do you feel like it's expensive to own a motorcycle? And if you do say it's expensive, tell me why. Why do you feel like it's expensive to own a Harley-Davidson or any other motorcycle? And if you own a motorcycle and you feel like it don't cost nothing, it's cheap, it's not expensive at all to own one, comment down below to help others know that you don't gotta break your wallet if you want a motorcycle. I honestly feel like owning all the cameras and camera gear I got is more expensive than owning a motorcycle. GoPros, DJI Pockets, Sony DSLR, that shit get expensive. So let's say you're doing 2 oil changes and an air cleaner thingy a year. Put it like this: you can own your motorcycle and maintenance your motorcycle for under $200 a year, and you're going to spend less gas, you're going to have more fun, you're going to be able to do all kinds of fun shit on your motorcycle. Well, not if you're sitting in this bull crap, this type of traffic, you know. So just do it. So let me give you a scenario. Let's say you want a motorcycle, you want a Harley, but you don't want one of those really extremely expensive Harleys. Brand new Sportsters, brand new, are typically around $9,000 to $10,000, and you can work the dealership a little bit. If you want to know how, send me a message, I'll tell you. But there's ways to work it a little bit to, you know, get a good deal. You can find a pretty decent Sportster, maybe if you gotta look at the right time, but you can find a pretty decent Sportster for around $4,000 or $5,000, a used one. Might be a couple years old, but they ain't changed much on the Sportster. So if you get a 2007 or you get a 2014, it ain't gonna be too much of a difference. Woo! And woo! What was I about to say? So let's say you find one for about $4,000. That's a pretty decent price. Or you might get lucky and find one for $2,000, like I was able to do. Then you want to put some pipes on it. Your first set of pipes, you can find some that make a lot of noise for about 200 bucks or so, if you really want to. The LAF exhaust, I mean, they loud as the name speaks for. LAF stands for loud as a bad word. I'm trying to reduce my cursing. Find you a nice little aftermarket air filter and everything like that, and you can have a pretty decent sounding looking, a wee bit customized motorcycle for well under $6,000. And that's pretty reasonable, in my opinion. It's extremely reasonable. So if you're thinking about getting a motorcycle, I suggest start looking into it. If you want to get one from a dealership because you want to do financing and stuff, by all means, go for it. If you're looking for a ridiculous deal, you know, you can look on Marketplace. Again, Sportsters come with an Evo motor, which is a solid motor. Typically, you won't have too many problems out of a Sportster, but it just depends on how they took care of their bike. So if you got questions or anything about how to get a good deal on a bike, or if there's a certain type of bike you're looking for, I'm always down to help people get out on 2 wheels. I ain't giving you no money, that's not happening, but I can try to help you find a good deal or give you some tips on how to get a good deal at like a dealership or even from a private party. There's ways to work it, you know what I'm saying? But I'm gonna check y'all out over in this video right here. Make sure you stay safe and be blessed and get out there on 2 wheels, people. And also hit that subscribe button, and it's about time for you to hit that like button. Deuces. I had to take my hand off to give y'all the deuces.